Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 PropTech Latam Summit. My name is Wayne Berger, CEO of the Americas with IWG, International Workplace Group. We are the world's largest provider of flexible workspace and co-working solutions with over 3,500 locations globally that span across 123 countries and 1,200 cities, and certainly with a large presence here across the Americas. I'm very excited to meet with you and join you today, albeit virtually, here from my office in Toronto, Canada. And I look forward to having a chance to gather with each of you again, physically and virtually in the future to come. Many of us have had a chance to get to know each other in previous PropTech Latam summits and meetings over the years. And I'm excited for that opportunity to gather again as we continue forward. And what a great agenda that we have in front of us. We've heard from some great speakers here so far this morning around not just smart cities, but smart territories and the ecological sensitivities that we need to recognize and deploy. We've talked about 3D cities and also the democratization of architecture. We are marking this first year of a pandemic. And this pandemic's changed all of our lives so significantly. And as we participate over these sessions over the next few days, much of what we're going to discuss is related to the future of work, the role and the movement that PropTech plays in helping us not just redeploy back to workplace, but also shift the future of workplace for the betterment of society. Vaccinations are accelerating every single day. Companies are moving from the planning phase to deploying their people to their new way of working. And people, associates and leaders alike, are gathering together, asking each other, what does the future of work and workplace look like? And how can we embrace a future that makes most sense for our people and our organization's goals? The future of work and the future of workplace are very hot topics right now. Every day as you open up your news feed, you can see dozens of stories that are coming out about companies communicating their redeployment strategies globally and locally within each one of their markets. We're hearing futurists and analysts talk about the future of hybrid working and remote working, how it's going to play a key role moving forward. Over these next 30 minutes, I want to ensure that I offer you value. I want to offer insight, education, and maybe some inspiration. I want to share with you what we're seeing at IWG, not just in the immediate future, but also the long-term future and the steps that companies and workers worldwide are taking during this very time. I'm going to share with you key insights in how the return to work is happening for many organizations. We're going to have a chance to share some details around companies, around workers, and certainly around the trends that we're seeing overall. Welcome to the future of work, because the future of work is starting today. And as we mentioned, 2020 has been a defining year for all of us here at PropTech Latam, and certainly for everybody around the world, companies and people alike. And as the year has continued, we've seen some emerging work trends really start to rise to the forefront. I want to share with you a few of them that I'm sure will be very common for many of you. We're seeing this complete movement towards mobilization. Hybrid working and remote working is here to stay. Many structural elements of hybrid working were taking place before the pandemic, but in response to this global pandemic, we've all been working and living within this world's largest work from home bubble and experiment over the last 365 days. And in response to that pandemic, we've been working at eradicating COVID-19 while we try to drive productivity within our organizations. Companies globally are now moving forward towards remote working strategies and solutions in a permanent way, and we're going to discuss more of that today. We've seen the rise of new positions like the Chief Health Officer companies are spending more time and focusing more on common mental health conditions within their workforce. We've seen more companies recruit this role, Chief Health Officer, to help support an increase in stress-related needs within their workforce and ensure that companies are providing the best environments where companies and organizations are supporting their team members and employees, both mental and physical health. We've seen a real gap in productivity. It's been quite interesting. Harvard Business Review recently reported that the productivity gap has widened during the pandemic, with the top quartile of companies now 40% more productive than the other 75%. And research has suggested that those top quartile companies have increased their productivity and increased the gap between other organizations due to how those organizations were able to optimize talent, time, and energy of a remote workforce or a hybrid workforce. We've seen a complete reworking of the workplace. The office itself, as we knew it prior to the pandemic, is changing. It's changing in design. It's being reconceptualized, with offices shifting to new touchless technologies, to taking all the health and safety measures in place, and then also changing the layout of their offices, both in terms of physical layout, moving towards becoming a more destination base for employees, as employees will not be returning to an office every single day, but going to a traditional corporate headquarters when the very specific need arises, more of a trophy workplace. And that physical office layout is shifting alongside a virtual office layout where people can still connect digitally utilizing emerging technologies. It'll be all about the employee experience. Employee activism is on the rise. In December 2020, 74% of young workers said they refuse to work for a company that goes against their values. And 82% of those workers believe that companies should leave aside their differences and work together for the greater good. A company's value system related to the environment, related to social elements are critical in our young generations selecting who they will be working for moving forward. And then, of course, we know the dramatic impact that the pandemic has had on the economy. And it's been an imbalanced impact in which certain groups of our society and certain industries and certain groups of our workforce have had an imbalance of impact overall within their jobs. Research has shown that globally, women's job losses due to COVID-19 are 1.8 times greater than men's, leading to some companies investing in new ways to support their female workforce. The future is accelerating and it's moving fast. And if I think about the future of work and workplace comes down to one word: ubiquity. The ability to be able to work in workplaces that are common across our everyday lives. Work and workplace will be ubiquitous with one another. And that ubiquity is being driven from four key trends that we're going to discuss today. The work from anywhere future is here with us to stay for very critical trends. And it's interesting, this hybrid working philosophy, this hybrid working strategy was in place prior to the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, over 50% of the world's workforce worked from somewhere other than a corporate headquarters for at least 2 days out of the work week. So that trend was in place prior. And of course, during this pandemic, advances in technology, shifts in working philosophies, and then our focus on eradicating this pandemic have helped enable workers and companies to move towards flexible working over the next number of years. COVID-19 proved that it's not only possible, but perhaps preferable for many workers to be able to accomplish their jobs from anywhere they need to accomplish their job at that very given time. This shift towards hybrid working has happened and is here to stay. It's a time of transformation in the workplace. We are moving to ubiquity when it comes to work. The ability to work from wherever we need to work at any given minute, hour, or day of the week. And this movement towards ubiquity and hybrid working is being driven through 4 primary trends: technology, people, the environment, and of course, economics. If you think about the transformation in the workplace, technology is playing such a critical role. Today, we're interacting and interfacing and engaging completely through technology. And advancements and accelerations in technology are making it easier for people to connect, sharing data, and having an opportunity to build an immersive experience collaborating together, very similar to what it would have been like if we were meeting live in person. 5G is a significant acceleration when it comes to the ability to be able to work alongside one another. 5G will enable a workforce to work digitally as if they're sitting beside one another, collaborating together. The ability to share data in real time will be an incredibly powerful movement to be able to work together symbiotically. We're seeing devices and connectivity continue to grow. In 2020, there were 31 billion devices interconnected together globally. By 2024, that number anticipates to accelerate to 62 billion devices connected digitally around the world, a doubling of the number in just 4 years. We've seen amazing enablers like Zoom that we're on today, like Microsoft Teams, many other platforms, and many other technological innovations like Slack and other amazing tools that help people work creatively and symbiotically together. And of course, AI and automation continues to grow and accelerate. Now, the second trend is people. Hybrid working has become the norm for individuals. And a large percent of the workforce will have the ability to work in a hybrid fashion in some element of the work week every single week. It's become the norm. And for many, it's become the most popular way of working. And we're going to share some details around what we're seeing from people trends related to hybrid working. Then you have the environment. The environment is going to become the most important theme of the decade. Now, today, when we think about the future of work and the future workplace, we look at everything through one myopic lens. It's the lens of the pandemic. We're all talking about how we redeploy people back to an office during this period as we progress through the pandemic into more of an endemic stage. It's a very myopic lens. But as we transition beyond the pandemic, the most critical theme over the next 10 years that we need to focus on together is our sustainable environment in supporting a more sustainable environment. The last time we met together at PropTech Latam, we discussed urbanization. And National Geographic came up with a great study that stated that over 85% of the world's population will be living in an urban environment or a city by the year 2050. The number today is 52%. So it's a huge acceleration over the next 30 years of this movement, this incredible migration into cities. Now, what's interesting if you think about Latin America is progressive in this movement. Latin America today is already at 85% urbanization. And with that comes an incredible amount of benefits when you look at the cluster effect of economies and cities. And it also has a range of challenges One of those being the environmental impact of CO2 emissions and the environmental impact of urbanization. We're going to talk about the power of the environment and the role that prop tech and hybrid working plays in salvaging and driving a more sustainable environment. And then, of course, the economics being a key driver. Companies realize now that hybrid working is opening a talent pool worldwide. Companies have the ability to hire the best individuals globally because they're able to conduct their jobs from wherever they reside. There's incredible flexibility in giving people the ability to work in a hybrid way. And flex is the new normal, because flexibility in hybrid working gives companies extraordinary flexibility in the real estate portfolio. We're shifting away from the days in which companies solely look at their real estate portfolio in the terms of long-term leases and in the terms of millions of dollars of capital required to sign a lease, to invest in their workspace, to design, to build it, to deploy IT, to maintain the facility. All those elements require extraordinary amounts of capital. And all those elements are fixed costs on an organization's balance sheet. Moving to flexibility and leveraging flexible workspaces gives organizations the opportunity to have many times reduce the real estate costs by upwards of 50% and unleash millions of dollars of capital into their business, into the core competencies of their organization, and into their people, driving into new markets, building their organization, and achieving great economic benefit. Flex is the new normal. Now, important to note, flex is not working from home. A lot of what we're reading today is this debate on whether working from home or working from the corporate headquarters makes sense. But those are polarizing perspectives. They drive polarity. It's not about home versus office. The future is hybrid. The future is flex. The future has elements of working from home. The future has elements of going to a corporate headquarters, because companies will continue to have their real estate portfolio. Their offices will look different because they're going to design them differently to support different levels of density, to support more collaboration and teamwork. They're going to make it the trophy workplace because people are going to head to an office when they're only required or when they only want to. So you've got home, you've got a corporate headquarters, but then you've got this incredible third place in the middle. And that's the ability for people to work closer to home in a well-designed, productive space. That is a place where people can work closer to their clients, where they can gather with their teams, whether it's physically or digitally. There's a whole subset of opportunity in the middle, the third place, where flexibility drives that enablement. The future is hybrid, home, flex, and corporate office. Because there have been great benefits to working from home. Take a look at some of the stats. 72% of people over the last year feel their home environment enabled them to work more productively. 52% said they felt more valued or included as a remote contributor in meetings because everyone was now in the same virtual room. 79% agreed that remote work policies will now be a factor when searching for new employment opportunities. Think about that. 8 out of 10 workers will now want to choose a job at an organization that gives them the ability to work in a flexible way. Organizations that are looking to attain and attract the top talent need a flexible working, hybrid working strategy. And 62% of employees working from home felt more empathy towards their colleagues now that they've had a better view of their life at home, because we've all had that time working from home, connected digitally. Now, there have been challenges to working solely from home. 60% of people have struggled with internet connectivity issues. 30% of workers working from home have stated that although, of course, we love our family members and we deeply value the opportunity to have a better work-life balance and spend more time with our families and friends, 30% of people have felt that their family members, their partners, and their housemates have become a significant distraction in working productively throughout the day. 50% of companies were unable to guarantee secure data transfer, very, very critical. And just under 25% of us have missed the opportunity to communicate face to face. And that percentage is growing every single day because we are social beings. We have a deep innate desire to connect together physically. The hybrid working revolution is happening now. 64% of companies who did not want to work, employees who did not want to work from home before the pandemic want to incorporate it into their work lives in the future. 8 out of 10 companies, 81% of companies anticipate remote working to become the new norm, and 40% of those organizations have seen increases in productivity when an optimized hybrid working model is in place. And 70% of companies plan to shrink their office footprint and move to flexible solutions because of the incredible economic benefit that those organizations see and the level of inefficiency that they've experienced in their corporate real estate footprint over the last year. The response from companies is happening worldwide. Hybrid working is creating 6 major resets in key areas of a company's work experience. As I mentioned, over 70% of employers are planning moderate to extensive changes in their real estate portfolio. And over half of them are redesigning their offices and reevaluating policies on shared space and meeting rooms. Business travel and mobility won't be the same moving forward, with many organizations reducing the amount of internal travel for company meetings and training, and they're remixing the amount of in-person versus remote visits. Now, of course, business travel will come back in a semblance, but it will shift as we're going to leverage the digital experience in a greater way, especially when it comes to internal travel. More and more organizations are enhancing the approach of their learning and their induction culture, moving to online and virtual learning tools. And over 48% of companies are considering location mix and backup workforce needs. And 49% of employers are looking to change how they measure productivity at work, because it's not about, productivity is no longer about coming to an office between 8:30 and 5. It won't be measured by hours spent in the office. It'll be measured on specific outcomes, on people achieving the goals and objectives within their job role within the organization. We know that remote work and enablement is about technology. 59% of organizations are expanding the implementation of Microsoft 365 and Teams, as well as other tools for work and collaboration. And most organizations are enhancing technology to support remote working, to support hybrid working, idea sharing, communication, and knowledge sharing. And lastly, 78% of employers are planning moderate to extensive changes to their remote work strategies, with those changes moving forward to support hybrid working. Flexibility is the future. Here's an example of a few companies that have recently come out on record to share what their new work practice and what their new working philosophies are for their employees. Spotify is a good example. Spotify came out last month communicating that they will let all of their employees, all 5,000 who work within the organization, to be able to work from anywhere after the pandemic. And the reason why is because work isn't something you come to the office for, it's something you do. Effectiveness can't be measured by the number of hours people spend in an office. Instead, giving people the freedom to choose where they work will boost effectiveness. Spotify will allow their employees to work from home. They'll allow their employees to work from a Spotify office. They'll also allow their employees and pay for their employees to work from a flexible workspace or co-working facility close to their home or of their choice. The ability to work productively from wherever it makes sense most from them. They anticipate to see an ongoing increase in productivity, in engagement, in culture, and the ability to shift to a results-based organization that is digitally centric, not workplace centric. Salesforce.com is also leading the charge, allowing most of their employees to work remotely at least part of the time after the pandemic. It's not just tech companies though. Siemens, one of the world's largest logistics company globally with a global workforce of close to 600,000 people, will allow their staff to work from anywhere permanently. And their CEO, Roland Bush, recently came out stating that this movement towards the work from anywhere permanent strategy is associated with a different leadership style, one that focuses on outcomes rather than on time spent at the office. Standard Chartered, one of the world's largest financial institutions and banks based out of the United Kingdom and London, has recently signed a deal to allow their 95,000 team members to work away from central offices towards this permanent, flexible working commitment moving forward. Facebook has been shifting towards remote working, in which Mark Zuckerberg anticipates that within the next 5 to 10 years, more than 50% of their employees will be working remotely. And if you're applying for a job at Facebook, every single new role today is open to a global workforce. You don't have to be based in Palo Alto in order to secure that job. And NTT, one of the world's largest telecom companies, recently adopted hybrid working globally for their 300,000 team members to help drive great economies, to reduce their corporate real estate costs, and give their 300,000 team member organization the ability to work in a hybrid fashion. Complete commitment to flexible working, helping meet their environmental commitments and achieve their financial goals. Companies around the world are adopting hybrid working. Here's a good example, just 12 companies. We're literally speaking with thousands of companies on an ongoing basis, helping them plan and redeploy their workforce, leveraging the benefits that we've learned in working during this past year and accelerating this movement towards hybrid working. Home, flex, office. These 12 companies alone, the reason why I call these out, they're not just tech companies, it's distribution, it's logistics, it's manufacturing, it's financial institutions, it's government. But these 12 companies have a combined workforce of 3 million people. And across these 3 million workers, a large percent of these 3 million workers have an opportunity to work however they want, whenever they want, from wherever they need to work every single day to achieve ultimate productivity and amazing engagement. So what are we doing today to support the new world of work? Well, at IWG, we're focusing our efforts and our investments to support the new worker. Now, as many of you know, as I mentioned earlier on, we operate the world's largest global network of flexible workspace, in which we have over 3,500 locations where workers can work from every single day across 123 countries. But we're also making significant investments in continuing to grow that network. Our goal is to reach 30,000 locations because we recognize that every village, every province, every subway stop, every metro stop, every city, every neighborhood needs an amazing workplace. We're going to talk about the 15-minute city soon, a concept that we've adopted in our commitment to eliminating, eradicating CO2 emissions and improving the environment and supporting the new worker. Because the new worker is the hybrid worker, and the hybrid worker is 5 profiles in one. There's somebody who works from home. It's somebody who travels for business. It's somebody who needs to be in an office. It's somebody who needs to be in an office every once in a while. And it's also a collection of teams, people working together in collaboration. Hybrid working is the future. And hub and spoke is one of the solutions that we are offering to enable this great acceleration of a hybrid workforce. Work is no longer location dependent. Mobility matters more than ever before. And companies are supporting their hybrid workforce with what we call hub and spoke. Hub and spoke gives organizations and people the opportunity to move away from one central location where people can gather traditionally like a traditional occupier tenant in one building, and give them access to multiple hubs and then a large amount of spokes, different workplaces where people can gather together en masse, or also just gather closer to their home or closer to their client's office or closer to their teams to get work done in a quick fashion, or to be able to spend a full day in a productive way. It creates a way of working that suits the individual needs of a company's employee base, and not necessarily just ongoing needs, but daily needs. It's very, very fluid. It improves productivity and it reduces costs for an organization because it's a subscription membership plan. And I want to give you a good example of this. We worked with an organization recently in New York who had a corporate headquarters prior to the pandemic. And their corporate headquarters was located in the amazing Flatiron District, a great neighborhood in Manhattan. They signed a lease for 30,000 square feet. That 30,000 square feet obviously cost millions of dollars in capital to deploy, and certainly their lease costs, their operating expenses, their taxes, their service fees, hydro, utilities, all those elements rolled in. The 30,000 square feet supported 200 people, 200 workers, of which roughly 128 of those seats were occupied at any given time. So roughly about 64% utilization. This location came at an annual cost, when you looked at all the costs, of roughly $3.45 million USD a year. The same organization shifted away from being a location-centric business to take on a hub and spoke solution. Same organization transitioned to hub and spoke, in which they now moved from one location to four, what we call hub locations, or four headquarters versus one headquarters. One headquarters, one hub, being in the Flatiron District, literally in the building right across the street from their previous headquarters. But they also added three other headquarters in New Jersey, Connecticut, and Long Island. This helped the organization redeploy their 200 team members safely. Because right now during the pandemic, many people have taken that step away from mass transit, wanting to travel in en masse to one physical location. This helped the organization redeploy safely and have their people have great access to productive workspace, 4 new hubs or headquarters. But on top of that, this organization overlaid another 136 spoke locations. These are offices that every single team member has access to. Spaces locations, Regis locations, HQ locations, the ability to work closer to home or closer to wherever they need to work that day. And they can drop in for minutes or they can spend weeks. And every hub and spoke location includes a full reception, a cafe experience, business club. It provides offices, team rooms, huddle rooms, phone booths, conference rooms, the ability for people to be able to work on their own, quietly in a productive way, or to be able to gather as a team where it makes sense. Now, if you look at it, the impact on the environment is incredible. The ability to be able to redeploy their workforce post-pandemic has been exceptional. And the cost savings has been significant, because the same organization transitioned from an annual cost of $3.45 million to just over $2 million, savings of $1.45 million or 40% by moving to hub and spoke. And this also gives them extraordinary flexibility, because they don't need to sign a 10 or 15 year lease. They can sign an agreement for a day, a week, a month, or a year's, all depending on what they need. And they can port their contract to different cities as well. Hub and spoke is what the new world will look like. Workers will have access to their hub quarters and unlimited access to spokes, providing them with the work experiences and the space that they need, both physically and digitally, every single day. And it doesn't need to be only in office towers, because hub and spoke are located in shopping plazas, in train stations, at home, on university campuses, in local municipal areas, in en route locations, airports, libraries, and of course, across traditional offices. We're repurposing space greater than ever before. And there are three significant benefits to hybrid working. It's better for employees, it's better for companies, and it's better for the environment. For people, it reduces commuting, which releases time into their day and saves them money and creates a better work-life balance. I'm sure, like you, I've spent more time with my family, had more dinners over the last year with my family than I probably had in the previous 10 years. The opportunity presented itself for me to spend that time, to eliminate 1 to 3 hours a day of commuting, knowing that I can work closer to home. And it's what employees want. Employees are demanding the ability to work in a hybrid way because results are not determined any longer based on the hours spent in one dedicated office. It builds loyalty and it improves productivity and it improves engagement. It's better for companies because moving away from long-term leases, moving to flexibility drives cost efficiencies upwards of 50%. There's no capital required for companies because the investment is made by a different organization like IWG. It creates a greater pool of available talent because now companies can leverage a global workforce. It improves productivity and it helps companies improve their own sustainability practices. And this is one of the biggest benefits in moving forward towards hybrid working. Because COVID-19 has accelerated the increased importance of ESG for companies. Hybrid working reduces carbon emissions. It has amazing sustainability benefits. It drives more efficiency in space and utilization because less space needs to be built because we're driving up efficiency in space and driving up utilization of space. So less space, it sits unused or underutilized every single day. And it helps distribute a workforce in a greater geographic way versus having a complete focus within a small area of a city. A geographically distributed workforce with the ability to still bring people together physically and digitally has become a significant benefit for organizations. And I want to share with you as we start to close out a really interesting concept that's being adopted by cities around the world here, and it was on display at the World Economic Forum. Cities like Paris, Melbourne, Milan, San Francisco are all adopting this movement towards the 5 to 15-minute city. And I think it's extraordinary, the ability to be able to repurpose and multi-purpose buildings that were traditionally designated for one type of use. The ability for people to be able to live, to work, and to access all the services and the amenities they need within a 5 to a 15-minute bike ride. That impact on the environment and sustainability is extraordinary and also critical for us as we start looking towards beyond the pandemic, towards the future. And at IWG, it's our biggest commitment. Our goal is to become carbon neutral in the next 5 years, and our goal is to support this movement and this enablement towards the 15-minute city. I'm living it today, and it's been extraordinary. And our goal is to continue to help support the adoption of this critical environmental benefit. And many companies are moving towards this because of the economies and the environmental benefits and the benefits on their workforce. I mentioned Standard Chartered earlier, but this is a great example. Standard Chartered Bank, traditionally a financial institution, bringing their people towards corporate headquarters, into corporate headquarters every single day, has transitioned to a full, permanent, flexible working solution and philosophy. Standard Chartered Bank has begun providing membership access to all 3,500 IWG locations globally for their 95,000 employees. They'll continue to operate their corporate headquarters in Canary Wharf in London, and of course, their retail banking locations. But all their employees have the ability to work what they call near home. For those employees that live in spaces that support multi-generational families and that need to have a productive workspace, or people that want to be able to travel to a work office, a productive office closer to home in that 5 to 15-minute realm, now have the ability to be able to work closer to home or near home, supporting their environmental initiative and drastically reducing their financial need and requirement on fixed assets like real estate leases. And NTT is another great example. NTT has adopted a tailored global pass program for all of its 300,000 employees, providing unlimited access to all of our short stay products across the IWG network. 300,000 people used to go to a dedicated office, now have access to flexibility around the world, supporting environmental initiatives, economic initiatives, and this new commitment towards employee productivity. 74% of businesses plan to permanently switch parts of their workforce to remote working in the future. Our goal is to help enable those organizations to achieve their financial goals, their people goals, their productivity goals, their culture goals, and their environmental goals. Today, we help 7 million workers globally adapt to this new world of work. We're excited about the future. We're thrilled to be with you here today. I wish all of you an incredible amount of success, health, happiness, and a great future. Welcome to work. Looking forward to seeing each of you again soon. Thank you for the time today.